The chamber hummed with an unnatural silence, the kind that swallowed sound rather than lacked it. Lines of luminous script floated midair like constellations, shifting as if reacting to thought. Commander Elias Vallon sat alone in the center, hands bound with a sleek metallic tether, the cuffs humming faintly with energy. His eyes didn't dart about like most prisoners might. Instead, they focused forward, unwavering, as if he already knew how this would unfold. They stared at him, dozens of them, tall, thin beings with skin like brushed silver, eyes too large for their narrow skulls. They lined the gallery above in quiet disapproval. A few whispered in their own tones, clicks, purrs, vibrations, but none spoke aloud. Not yet. Elias flexed his fingers. He knew the theater of power when he saw it. The first to move was the presider, a being with a body like woven glass, shimmering with colorless light. It floated forward, its voice projected to the minds of all in the room. You are Elias Vallon, representative of humanity. You were retrieved from Sector Theta 9 during unauthorized exploration of restricted space. Do you deny these actions? I don't deny curiosity, Elias said. I do question your definition of restriction. There was a ripple among the council, unease or perhaps admiration. Hard to tell. Another figure stepped forward, this one less ethereal. Short, hunched, with smooth moss-colored skin and eyes like wells. Elder Kalor, from the Ark Collective. He speaks with arrogance, just like the others. Their kind spread like rot, fast, uncontrolled. They devour, replicate, consume, and then they smile. You make it sound poetic, Elias said. We'd be flattered if we weren't shackled. The chamber dimmed slightly. The presider raised a hand. The council convenes today to evaluate the threat humanity poses to the balance of the galaxy. To understand if your species is inherently dangerous or simply immature, Elias leaned forward. We weren't the ones abducting diplomats and running trials without representation. A hiss rose from one quadrant. Several of the smaller beings, gray-skinned, black-eyed, turned their heads in sharp unison. Elias met their gaze. None blinked. Behind them, a ship hovered silently just beyond the transparent hull of the chamber. A sleek, alien construct with glowing fins and slow-pulsing engines. He knew that ship. He'd seen it in Earth's orbit for 3 seconds before it disappeared. He'd followed it into the void. And here he was. "We monitored your species for over 4 centuries," said a voice to his right. A different alien, a lithe creature with opalescent feathers for hair and a voice like wind and glass. "You escalate faster than any other. Tools to weapons. Words to war. You've turned scarcity into empire. Emotions into machines." Elias tilted his head. "And yet, you talk of us as if we were alone in this. I don't see a lot of peace in your galactic court." The presider paused. Silence again, like a held breath. Then a projection flickered to life in the center of the chamber. Earth, spinning slow. Images bloomed around it. Wars, protests, cities drowning in smoke. Then faster, rockets, colonies, AI, genetic modification, cybernetic revolts, Mars settlement riots. Do you see peace in this? Elias didn't answer right away. He watched the footage, his own memories, in some cases. Friends lost, systems failed, promises broken. And still, somehow, humanity survived it all. Peace isn't the absence of conflict, he said at last. It's what you fight to build afterward. The presider tilted its head, thoughtful, but Kalor spat. We've seen what you build. Weapons that bend space. Minds that infect technology. You dissected a living moon to study gravity. You enslaved your own kind for centuries without remorse. And yet, Elias said calmly, here I am, alone, not with an army, not with a fleet, just man in a room. Precisely, said a new voice, quieter, smoother. It came from a being almost unnoticed in the shadows behind the council. Clad in dark folds of armor like silk, its face was obscured, but its presence was absolute. You came knowing the risks. No defense. No escape plan. That is not bravery. That is a warning. Elias looked toward it. Or maybe it's trust. Not something you're used to, I suppose. A pulse of light shimmered through the chamber again, and the presider raised a long hand to silence all. Enough! The floating images vanished. This proceeding is not to humiliate the accused. It is to determine truth. And truth is not shaped by tone. A pause. Elias Vallon, do you speak for Earth? He hesitated, then nodded. Not officially. Earth doesn't even know I'm gone. But I know who we are, what we're capable of. That's more honest than any title. The chamber murmured. Some members conferred telepathically. Others simply watched him like one might observe a caged predator. Not because it was angry, because it might never need to be. The presider turned away, gesturing to the council. We will adjourn briefly. Review our positions. This is not a sentence. Not yet, but your presence here, your existence, requires careful consideration. With that, the lights dimmed. The figures began to vanish, one by one, into shadows or shifting corridors of light. Elias remained seated, his cuffs still humming faintly. Only one remained behind, a childlike alien, thin and pale, eyes wide but unafraid. It floated closer, inspecting Elias like one might a curious relic. It didn't speak. You're not scared of me, Elias said quietly. The creature tilted its head. He smirked. Smart. It blinked, once slowly, then drifted away. Alone again. Elias exhaled and leaned back against the cool metal of the chair. He knew this was only the beginning. The real fight hadn't started yet, but they'd seen something already, not just in his words, in their own fear, in their own reflection. And that was the most human thing of all. Let me know if you'd like to continue with Section 2. The chamber had changed. Elias noticed at the moment he was escorted back in, no longer just a hollow shell judgment, but something transformed into a stage. The light had shifted to a colder hue, casting longer shadows across the chamber floor. Figures now sat in elevated rings above him, silent, watching. The seats of power had filled. At the center stood a new platform, raised and circular, pulsating faintly with blue light. A trial platform, interactive, reactive, and unforgiving. It was built not just for display, but for pressure. Every movement would be observed, every word cataloged. Elias stood alone upon it. A sharp chime resonated, and the presider materialized once more, suspended like a mirage woven from glass and will. The Tribunal of Galactic Harmony is now in session. Its voice rang out. The case of Homo sapiens versus the collective accord proceeds. No protest this time. Elias said nothing. He simply stood still, his hands now unbound, but the weight of scrutiny heavier than chains. The first to speak was Elder Kalor, who moved forward with a pace that felt performative. His voice was deeper now, more deliberate. The charges against this species are not speculative. They are documented. They are monstrous. I submit the chronicles of violence. A sphere rose before the tribunal, spinning slowly. Images burst from it. Wars spanning continents, nuclear tests blistering the earth, torture chambers, cities burning under both alien and human conflict. The spectators, some of them accustomed to war, shifted uncomfortably. Do you see now? Kalor's voice echoed. These are not growing pains. This is design. This is what they are. Their innovation is a double-edged weapon, and they always swing toward the throat. Elias didn't flinch. He waited. The presider's translucent hand gestured, and the images froze. Commander Vallon, you may respond. He stepped forward, the platform adjusting subtly beneath him to center his voice. I don't deny what you've seen. I've lived it. I've fought in it. But I also know it's not the whole truth. More images appeared, this time projected by him. A child pulling another from rubble. A scientist giving their life to stop a reactor meltdown. Protesters locking arms in the face of armored tanks. The first interstellar handshake, tentative, but real. Humans are flawed, Elias said, but we're not evil. We're capable of cruelty, yes, but we're also capable of empathy that transcends survival, of sacrifice without reward, of dreaming beyond the need to dominate. There was silence, but it wasn't the dismissive kind. Some leaned forward now. A voice from the second tier interrupted. It came from being covered in crystalline filaments, each movement chiming like wind through icicles. You say your people evolved, Commander, but evolution without control is chaos. You could just as easily evolve into something worse. Elias turned toward the voice. You're right. Evolution is unpredictable, but it's also how we learn to listen, how we made peace with things we used to fear. We were once terrified of the night sky. Now we build homes in its darkness. The tribunal murmured again. A few of the gray-skinned observers narrowed their eyes, unblinking. Then a figure rose from the shadows. Unexpected. It was not part of the tribunal. Not formally. She stood with quiet grace, her body humanoid but made of glistening metal and organic fiber, eyes like liquid mercury. An emissary of the Delari, a reclusive synthetic race. I object to this narrative, she said, voice gentle but firm. My kind has encountered humanity before, not as adversaries, as allies. On the mining moon of Pharos, 7, a human vessel sacrificed its entire crew to prevent a containment breach that would have consumed our atmosphere. No demand, no witness, just choice. Kalor hissed audibly. Emotion is not proof, but it is evidence, she replied. The presider acknowledged her words with a tilt of its head. Testimony from non-aligned species is permitted. Please continue. She nodded once, then looked directly at Elias. We've observed your species with caution, but also wonder. There's a defiance in you. It is dangerous, but it is also rare. You push against entropy. You resist surrender, even when surrender would be easier. Thank you, Elias said, and meant it. Another voice entered, sharper now, clipped and impatient. It came from one of the Etris, a species known for neural computation and vast memory networks. We have logged over 5 million acts of violence by human agents since your species reached space. No other species has this ratio. None. Elias turned to face them. And how many acts of compassion have you counted? A pause. We do not track irrational behavior. That's the problem, he said. You think kindness is irrational. We don't. It's dangerous, sure. It opens you up, makes you vulnerable. But it's also what kept us from destroying ourselves completely. It's what made us reach for each other, not just for conquest, but connection. The Etris did not reply. The presider raised its hand. We have seen both sides. We acknowledge that humanity's path is tangled with both destruction and potential. The council will now enter deliberation. No, Elias said suddenly. There was a gasp, small, collective. I'm not done. You are not permitted. I didn't come here just to answer your charges. Elias cut in. I came to tell you what's coming. Not a threat, a reality. You can choose to isolate us, condemn us, even try to erase us. But you won't stop us. He stepped closer to the edge of the platform. We're not just survivors. We're builders. We adapt faster than anyone. And yes, that scares you. But it should also interest you. Because in every corner of the galaxy where you saw disorder, we saw opportunity. Where you saw failure, we found meaning. We're chaos, but we're also hope. The presider's glow dimmed slightly, as if considering. Are you saying the galaxy needs humanity? I'm saying you need to understand us before you decide to erase us. Because we're not just dangerous. We're something you haven't figured out how to quantify. Again, silence. Then, slowly, the lights across the chamber began to pulse. One by one, members of the tribunal disconnected, vanishing into their respective corridors. The deliberation would begin in private. Elias stood alone again, not shackled this time, just waiting. A voice came from behind him, quiet, different, the childlike alien once more, its eyes glowing faintly. You said we're not afraid of you. Elias looked at him. The little one's mouth curved slightly. You were wrong. Then it turned and walked away, leaving Elias with only the echo of its words and the growing tension of what came next. The corridor outside the tribunal chamber was carved from obsidian alloy, veins of starlight threading through its walls like frozen lightning. Elias walked alone, no guards flanking him this time. Either a gesture of trust or a silent warning. He couldn't decide which. Behind him, the tribunal deliberated. Ahead of him, Uncertainty stretched out like the void. The childlike alien, the one who'd spoken to him, had vanished, but its words echoed louder now than the council's accusations. You were wrong. He paused at a viewport, watching distant ships glide like insects against the skin of a planet-sized station. Somewhere among those blinking lights, a future was unraveling, and he was at the center of it. Footsteps clicked behind him. Familiar ones. You walk like a man who thinks he's free, said a voice smooth, sardonic. Elias turned slowly. The figure who approached was tall, humanoid, dressed in elegant dark robes that shimmered like fluid night. A faint scar traced the curve of her temple. Commander Naira Solari, envoy of the Solari Dominion. Former ally, former enemy. Once, they fought side by side on Ixar, too. Once, they nearly killed each other on Calus Prime. Now, here she was. I didn't expect to see you here, Elias said, not masking his surprise. She tilted her head, letting the light catch the burnished metal of her collar. You didn't think we'd ignore humanity's trial, did you? The outcome affects more than your fragile homeworld. I thought you'd be on the other side of the glass, he muttered. She took a few steps closer. Oh, and I watched. You held your own better than I expected. High praise. I didn't say it was good enough. A faint smirk tugged at the edge of Elias's mouth, but it didn't last. I didn't come here to win hearts, just to keep doors from closing. Naira folded her arms. Then you misunderstand what's really happening. He looked at her. Enlighten me. She leaned in slightly, her voice dropping. The tribunal isn't debating your morality. They've already decided humanity is dangerous. What they're deliberating now is whether that danger is worth keeping. Elias's jaw tightened. They don't fear what humans might do, she continued. They fear what you'll teach others. You bring infection, Elias, rebellion, uncertainty. You plant questions where they buried obedience. He held her gaze. Is that what you think? Naira didn't answer right away. I think humanity is a mirror, and most species aren't ready to look at themselves. He laughed once, bitterly. We barely are. She smiled faintly. And yet you do. That's the difference. A low vibration hummed through the floor, a signal. Deliberation was ending. Naira turned. They'll call you back soon. Whatever happens, don't beg, don't plead. If they sentence Earth, it won't be because you failed to convince them. It'll be because they were never open to conviction. He stepped forward. Then why are you here? She paused, her back to him, to remind them that fire can burn, but it also gives light. Then she was gone. Moments later, a pulse of light summoned him back into the tribunal. The platform awaited, its glow stronger now. The chamber felt fuller, denser. Even the air was charged with anticipation. The presider returned last, its form more defined than before, as if the judgment had given it shape. We have reached consensus. The gallery fell silent. Humanity is recognized as a Category 7 existential volatility. It is unpredictable, impulsive, and currently incapable of consistent peace. However, Elias's breath caught at that word. It is also uniquely self-reflective, capable of growth not measured by linear models. Its influence on interstellar civilization, though destabilizing, is not inherently malicious. A new sphere hovered into the air. A hologram of Earth rotated slowly, projections circling its atmosphere, red indicators blinking faintly. As such, the tribunal declares that humanity will not be eradicated. Relief surged in Elias's chest, but it was too soon for celebration. However, Earth will be placed under observation, restricted travel, conditional contact, and most importantly, your species must nominate a representative to serve as its constant liaison, someone who embodies your values, who will remain here. Elias's heart slowed. They weren't just offering terms. They were choosing a leash. Kalor stepped forward, voice dripping with contempt. Let them choose wisely. Their voice will be their shield, and their cage. The presider turned toward Elias. You have the authority to appoint this liaison, Commander Valen, who speaks for humanity. He looked around. No faces familiar. No Earth diplomats here. No one to turn to. He knew what they were doing. This wasn't mercy. It was exile wrapped in duty. Still, he lifted his head. "I'll do it." Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Kalor sneered. "Of course." But the presider only inclined its head. "Then it is done." The glow from the platform faded, and Elias stepped down. He felt the weight settle differently now. Not just judgment, but purpose. A role, a sentence, a promise. As the chamber began to empty once more, the Delari emissary approached him, silver eyes calm. "You understand what this means?" He nodded. "I'm Earth's shadow on the galactic stage." She studied him. Shadows don't just follow. Sometimes they lead. He watched her go, the enormity of the moment sinking deeper. Alone now, truly and officially, Elias looked once more to the stars beyond the viewport. Earth was safe for now, but peace wouldn't come from safety. It would come from something harder, change, and it had to start with him. The stars never slept. From the observation deck of the Accord Citadel, they spun endlessly through the void, cold, radiant, distant. Elias had grown used to them, but not comfortable. Their stillness mocked his restlessness. It had been 74 days since the tribunal's ruling. 74 days since Earth was bound under a watchful eye, and he became its tether. He was no longer Commander Elias Vallon. Here, he was a symbol, a mouthpiece for a species suspended between condemnation and redemption. He sipped from a steaming cup of Scintilleaf, its taste bitter and sharp. The chamber behind him hummed softly, ambient light pulsing like a heartbeat. His quarters were spacious by Accord standards, yet sterile. Gifts from various species lined one wall, gestures of curiosity, diplomacy, or subtle intimidation. One crystal bore a faint inscription in a language he hadn't yet deciphered. He hadn't tried very hard. A quiet chime interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he said without turning. The door slid open with a sigh, and the Delari emissary stepped through. Her metal and organic form shimmered with recent upgrades. She moved like poetry rendered into machinery, fluid but precise. "I thought you might be here," she said, approaching the viewport. "You watch them often." "They're all I have left of home," Elias replied. "The stars. And memory." She didn't answer. They stood in silence for a moment. Then she said, "There's been unrest." He turned. "Where?" "On Daraxis. Border colonies near the Human Trade Compact. There are rumors your merchants are being harassed. Some detained. Others disappeared." Elias narrowed his eyes. "Retaliation for the tribunal's decision?" She didn't confirm. She didn't have to. "There's more," she continued. "Some within the collective believe the tribunal erred. They see your presence here not as oversight, but infection." He shook his head. This was supposed to be a chance. A chance to prove we could be part of something larger. That we're more than the wars they remember. "You may be proving that," she said softly. "But not everyone wants to believe it." A pause. "There's going to be a vote," she added. "A motion to reconsider Earth's restricted status. This time, it won't be a tribunal. It'll be public. Sector delegates. Media. Civilians. You won't just be speaking to leaders. You'll be speaking to fear itself." Elias stared at her. "When?" 40 hours. He set his cup down with more force than necessary. "Then I'd better start writing." She stepped in front of him. "No." He blinked. "What?" "No script. No speech. That's not what reached them last time. You didn't convince the tribunal with polish. You did it with truth. Unfiltered. Messy. Human." His mouth opened, then closed again. He nodded slowly. She turned to go, then paused. "There's one more thing." He waited. "Your mother sent a message. Through back channels. It was difficult to route, given Earth's communication restrictions. But it got through." Elias's chest tightened. "What did she say?" The emissary held out a small device. "See for yourself." He took it, and she left without another word. He hesitated, then activated it. Her face appeared, older, more worn than he remembered, but unmistakably hers. Gray streaks in her hair, the lines of loss around her eyes. "Elias," she said softly, I don't know if this will reach you, but I needed to try. We heard some of what happened. I know they're watching you. I know you're caring more than anyone should. But I want you to remember something." Her eyes flicked up, then back. "You were never just a soldier. Even as a boy, you questioned things no one else would. You listened when others shouted. That's your strength, not your fire. Your patience. Your heart." She swallowed hard. "I'm proud of you. Whatever they say, whatever they decide, we're still here. We're still hoping. Stay safe." The message ended. Elias stood in the silence that followed, head bowed. Then he walked, through winding corridors, past delegates and guards, through the rising hum of preparation, banners unfurled in the central forum, species insignias glittering under alien lights. The chamber was cavernous, shaped like a spiral galaxy, its center stage suspended in anti-grav above the audience tiers. Thousands of beings would gather here. Millions more would watch. And in that moment, humanity would be laid bare again. He stepped onto the platform as technicians finalized calibrations. No fanfare, no ceremony, just his footsteps echoing into a hush. The forum filled gradually, not just Accord members, but representatives from systems he'd never visited, civilians, traders, engineers, warriors. The galaxy itself had come to witness the decision. The presider appeared once more, now reduced in size but no less imposing. "The floor is yours, Elias Valen." He took a breath, then another, and then he spoke. "You all know what we are. You've seen it. You've lived through the effects of it. Humanity is a storm. We're wild. We're messy. We're unpredictable. And I won't stand here and deny it." Some murmurs in the crowd. He let them settle. "But you've only seen one side of that storm. The one that breaks things." He took a slow step forward. "You haven't seen the nights when we rebuild the houses we didn't destroy. The strangers who bleed for people they'll never know. The ones who rise from rubble, not to conquer, but to heal." He pointed toward the upper galleries. "You fear us, but you don't understand that we fear ourselves too. Every day. And still we choose to be better. Not perfectly, not fast enough, but we try. That's what makes us dangerous. Yes, but also beautiful." He paused, looking out. "I know what,"